Dear students, let us start the discussion on the 10th February 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to the net neutrality. The recent regulation by the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, it has upheld the net neutrality and has ended any provision related to the differential pricing of use of the data and zero rating of services. In this context, the TRAI has made an important judgment or important decision which says that the regulation, if it is not appropriate in time, ultimately it leads to or it causes a huge damage to the use of the internet. Now, the Facebook tried to promote its free basics in the guise of universalizing the internet access. Now, we can say that India shall bridge its digital divide, but it shall not be at the cost of, changing the internet how it is, or changing the fundamentals of functioning of the internet. Now, the Facebook has underestimated the power of the people in India, and people have easily understood that what is the full internet and what the free basics is offering is a truncated form of this internet. And the second thing is, a level playing field is necessary for the innovation to occur on the internet. If we allow the telecom companies and big internet majors to decide on what shall be the internet and what shall be the future of the internet, then ultimately it will damage the public interest in long run. So, the net neutrality is about to change this particular situation. And another thing is how the regulation has to be. The telecom companies have answered that the regulation has to first see the negative consequences, then only it shall come into action. So the TRAI has said it can make the regulation ex ante to prevent some damage from happening. And another point is, the Facebook has tried to use, I will say it has misused its platform to use its user groups to promote its policy or to promote its self-interest on free basics. In this context, we have to specify what are the rights of users on this public platform such as Facebook. Now, can we allow the Facebook to flaunt the regulations of the country and to question the regulatory authorities? Is under scanner. It means an MNC, can it really question the sovereign authority of the state and an institution recognized by the sovereign authority to frame the policies for the country? So these are the questions that have come into existence. Finally, my carry home point is, yes, India need an universal access to internet, but it shall not be at the cost of the changing the very style of the internet, how it functions, and very nature of the internet, how it has led to the universalization and of innovation across the world. And next is related to the power of the governor. Now, we need to understand what is cooperative federalism and partisan federalism. The union governments, they misuse the office of the governor to control the governments ruled by the opposition parties in the states. And governors appointed by the previous governments are transferred, are removed at their will, so that they can use this office effectively for their partisan politics. In this context, the author argues the Supreme Court as a neutral empire, it has to bring in a set of general and neutral constitutional rules that have to be applied equally. So this becomes much in importance because of the recent Arunachal Pradesh crisis, in which Governor Rajkova, he has recommended for Article 356 on the ground that there is a law and order failure and the legislature did not assemble within the stipulated 6 months of time. In this context, what are the powers of the governor? Under Article 174, he can summon the house and he can ask them to meet at a particular time and at a particular place. But however, the power has to be exercised on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Rajkova has went further and he also recommended what the agenda has to be taken up by the House. So this is seen as crossing the constitutional limitations of the office of the governor. So in this case, the Supreme Court has set the rules straight in S.R. Bommai versus Union of India case, where it has said the assembly and the floor test on the assembly is the only way one can ascertain that the government enjoys the confidence of the House or not. It shall not be the Rajya Sabha. So in this case, we have to say that if cooperative federalism as envisioned by the Prime Minister Modi has to be achieved, the misuse of the office of the governor, developing the constant neutral principles in defining the relations between center and the states are very critical. And coming to the course correction in pharma. So the cost of expenditure in healthcare majorly depends upon the pharma or else the drug cost. Now, today we have moved from process patent to the product patent. Previously, we could have manufactured the same drug through different formulation or different ingredients, passive ingredients, through a different process, and we used to bypass the patents. Because these drugs which are manufactured through a different process, we call them as generics. Now, India is a leading or a global leader in the generic drug industry. So, in this context, in 2005, the product patent has come into force. It means if the pharma companies has to survive, they have to innovate, spend on research. So, in this context, recently government has lifted the customs duty exemptions on various life-saving drugs. In India, as insurance is not yet completely penetrated, the out-of-pocket expenditure is very high in the healthcare sector. So removal of these exemptions and product patents, they are bound to increase the cost of healthcare in India. So the government has to actively encourage the research and the private sector has to more invest in the research. Coming to the Gates Foundation, if you remember our class, we have discussed about the FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Under this, any NGO receiving the foreign funds has to register with FCRA. Now, the Gates Foundation, which is functioning as an international NGO in India, has not registered with the Ministry of Home Affairs under FCRA Act, but it has registered with RBI under FEMA as a liaison office. So, the Ford Foundation also has registered the same way, and the central government kept it under watch list. Finally, some solution was arrived at. So, in this context, this route can be used by many other NGOs to escape the scrutiny of the Ministry of Home Affairs. Recently, an UK-based Global Justice Now, an NGO, has criticized the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for acting as a market office for the international pharmaceutical companies based in the United States and Europe, because they are delivering various tests in a public-private partnership. And Gavi Alliance, a vaccine initiative, a global vaccine initiative, which is promoted by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, added to that a global fund for fight against AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria. These are criticized by this Justice Now based on their based on their support towards the multinational pharma companies. So in this context, the Gates Foundation has clarified that it is following all the norms created by the International Aid Transparency Initiative, which is an initiative to maintain some standards with regard to the global aid related work. Now coming to the Cyber Security Action Plan of United States government. United States is the worst victim of the cyber attacks and data theft. So in this context, the President Obama has proposed for $19 billion cyber security action plan to strengthen the cyber security architecture in the country. And coming to the women executives, now you know that anywhere diversity yields greater profits. So in any organization it happens. Now this study at the Peterson Research Institute in Washington, what it says is that gender diversity at the executive level in an organization increases the organization's profitability. These are the today's news for discussion. And in today's notes, I have made a small change. What are the points or what are the terms you need to reproduce in your answer, which you have to repeatedly use to construct an answer? I have given them as a separate words. And also the statements or opinions you need to think on, I have also mentioned it. If your time permits, try to get that onto your tongue and try to remember that and also think on those particular lines. Thank you very much. All the best.